Welcome to Earth Before Us, a quiet harbor where the tired mind can find its anchor. Perhaps you settled in for the evening, ready to let the long day drift away. Perhaps you're here to let the sound of ancient tides guide you into a peaceful sleep. Or maybe you simply wish to learn something new, wrapped in this gentle stillness. Whatever your intention, know that you are in the right place. Tonight, our journey will take us far beneath the surface, into a primeval ocean ruled by the greatest predator our planet has ever known. We will dive into the Miocene epoch, a world of warmer, wider seas, to understand the ecosystem that gave birth to and sustained the great toothed one, Megalodon.
Imagine yourself floating in this water. Feel its warmth enveloping your skin, like a gentle embrace from a younger planet. Sunlight penetrates the clear water, creating pillars of light that dance all the way to the bottom. Below you, vast coral reefs stretch wider than anything that exists today, forming underwater cities teeming with life. This is not an empty ocean, it is a bustling kingdom. Here, ancient whales, the ancestors of modern blue and humpback whales, swim in great pods. Whales like Cedotherium, smaller than their modern relatives, filter plankton from the water, their bodies moving with a slow, deliberate grace. They are the grazers of the ocean, maintaining the ecosystem's balance with their deep breaths. Among the reefs, ancient turtles the size of small cars paddle with their powerful flippers, their shells becoming moving islands for algae and barnacles. Prehistoric seals with sleeker bodies hunt for fish in the shallows, their agility a silver flash among the coral. This ocean is dense with life at every level. Small fish formed shimmering clouds that move as one, evading the shadows that pass above them. Ancient dolphins with longer snouts communicate with whistles and clicks that echo through the water. This world feels complete, balanced, yet every kingdom has its ruler. Every ecosystem has its apex. In this Miocene ocean, the ruler is not the orca or the great white shark we know. The ruler is something far larger, far more ancient, and far more powerful. At first, you would not see it. You would only feel it. A subtle change in the water pressure. A sudden silence falling over the reef as the small fish vanish into crevices. A pod of dolphins, once playful, now swimming with purpose, away. There is a presence felt in the water, an unseen weight. Then, from the blue edge of the distance, a shadow forms. It does not move quickly. It does not need to. Its size alone is enough to announce its arrival. The shadow grows, becoming darker, more defined. 18 meters long, perhaps more, as wide as a bus. This is Otodus Megalodon, the giant tooth. It does not swim like the modern sharks we see in documentaries, with frantic speed. Its movement is slow, majestic, full of certainty. Each sweep of its massive crescent-shaped tail propels its body of tens of tons with effortless force. Its legendary dorsal fin, a dark banner signifying its power, slices the water above it.
As it draws closer, you can see the details. Its rough skin, perhaps a dark gray or deep blue on top, fading to a pale white below.
an ancient camouflage that makes it difficult to see from either above or below. Its eyes, black and expressionless, gaze straight ahead, processing the world in vibrations, in scents, and in electric fields we cannot comprehend. And then the teeth. Even with its mouth closed, the tips of those teeth might be visible. A serrated fringe of triangles as large as a human hand. These teeth are not merely tools for eating. They are a legacy, perfected over millions of years for a single purpose: to shear through flesh and bone with terrifying efficiency. Megalodon was not a monster. A monster is something outside the rules of nature. Megalodon was the rule. It was the pinnacle of marine predator evolution, a result of an ocean rich with large prey. Its existence was proof of the health and abundance of the Miocene ecosystem. It existed because those ancient whales existed. It was the great balancer, the apex predator that kept other giants in check. Imagine it patrolling along the edge of the continental shelf. It does not need to hide. Its presence alone is enough to change the behavior of every creature around it. The whales would communicate in lower tones, trying to stay outside its range of hearing. The seals would scramble for land. Even other smaller sharks would move aside, giving way to the king. Its massive body required incredible energy. Every day, it had to consume hundreds of kilograms of meat just to sustain itself. Its hunt was not a frantic chase, but a strategic assault. It might strike from below, from the dark depths, using its massive size to ram its prey, shattering ribs or crippling a flipper before the final bite. In a world without humans, without ships, without nets, the ocean was a stage for pure evolutionary drama. Megalodon was its lead actor. Its life was a cycle of hunting, migration, and reproduction that spanned the entire global ocean. Its fossilized teeth are found on every continent, from the shallow waters of Florida to the deep offshore shelves of Japan. This was a global ruler, unbound by geography. Yet, even a king has a humble beginning. Somewhere in the warm, shallow coastal waters that served as nursery grounds, young megalodons were born. They were already massive at birth, perhaps 2 meters long, but they were vulnerable. In these shallows, they would learn to hunt smaller fish and turtles, avoiding the larger sharks that might see them as prey. Here, in these ancient kindergartens, the princes and princesses of the ocean kingdom learned the first rules of survival.
As we float in this Miocene world, watching the great giant pass beneath us, it is easy to feel small. It is easy to feel the ancestral tremor of fear. But try to see it another way. See it as the apex of a lost world, a world of such incredible abundance that the oceans could support a predator of this magnitude. The existence of Megalodon is not a story of terror, but a story of plenty. It is a symbol of an ocean that was healthy, robust, and overflowing with energy. It is a testament to what is possible when life is left to flourish on unimaginable timescales. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, Let your mind float in this warm Miocene sea. Hear the deep breaths of the ancient whales. Feel the vibration in the water as a pod of dolphins passes by. And see the great shadow that cruises in the distance, not as a threat, but as the majestic guardian of a world long gone. In our next episode, we will swim closer. We will follow the Megalodon on its hunt, explore its daily life, and try to understand how a creature of this size not only survived, but reigned for millions of years. But for now, rest. Let the gentle tides of the past carry you into slumber. And know that even in the stillness of your room, the echo of these giants remains, stored in stone and in the memory of our planet.
We have seen the world where the Megalodon lived, a warm and plentiful ancient ocean. We have glimpsed its majestic shadow from the distance, felt the tremor of its presence in the water. Now it is time to draw closer. Our journey tonight will follow the Ocean King on its hunt, exploring how it sensed its world through means we can barely imagine, and understanding the slow, grand rhythm of its life, day by day, in the vast Miocene Sea. This is the story of how the giant lived. Imagine a morning off the coast of what we now call California. The sun has just risen, its rays piercing the water, illuminating a towering underwater forest of kelp. Here, among the swaying stalks, smaller life takes shelter. But the Megalodon is not interested in this small world. It is in the more open waters where the larger prey roam. It does not hunt every day. With its massive size and a metabolism likely slower than modern sharks, a single large meal, a medium-sized ancient whale, could sustain it for weeks. So, much of its life is spent in a slow, calculated journey. It is an ocean wanderer, constantly moving, following the currents and the scent of prey. How did it perceive its world? Not just with its eyes. Along the sides of its body, from head to tail, ran the lateral line, a remarkable sensory organ. This line felt the slightest pressure changes in the water, the vibration of a panicking fish, the pressure wave of a whale pod swimming miles away. The ocean, to the Megalodon, was an invisible web of vibrational information, a map of touch. On its snout, it had hundreds of small pores called the ampullae of Lorenzini. These organs could detect the faint electrical fields generated by the heartbeat or muscle contractions of every living creature nearby. Even prey buried in the sand or hidden behind coral could not hide its life signal from the Megalodon. It felt the very heartbeat of the ocean.
And of course, its sense of smell. Its nostrils could detect a single drop of blood from kilometers away, an ability that allowed it to track wounded prey or find floating carcasses. To the Megalodon, the ocean was a tapestry of scents, each current carrying a story of what was living, what was dead, and what was about to die. Today, the king is hungry. It has been patrolling for days, sensing the vibrations of a migrating pod of Pseudotherium. It does not rush. Energy is a precious resource, and a failed chase is a waste. So it waits. It might sink into the darker depths, where its dark body would merge with the deep blue below. From beneath, it observes the silhouettes of the whales at the surface. It looks for the right target, not the largest and strongest in the pod, but perhaps the young,
the old, or one that is slightly separated from the rest. This is the intelligence of a predator, not just power, but strategy. Once a target is chosen, the attack begins. It would not be a long chase from behind. Instead, it would use its greatest weapon, momentum. From the depths, it would launch itself upward like a colossal torpedo. Its speed increases, tens of tons of muscle propelling it through the water. The impact itself would be devastating. It might not aim to bite at first, but to ram its prey with immense force. A strike from below would shatter ribs, damage internal organs, and render the whale helpless. Or it might target the flippers. With one powerful bite to a pectoral fin or the tail, the whale would lose its ability to swim or maneuver. The hunt was about incapacitation, not just killing. Only after its prey was severely wounded and no longer able to fight back would the final fatal bite be delivered. Its massive mouth would open wide, revealing over 250 serrated teeth in 5 rows. The bite would shear through flesh, blubber, and bone with ease. In a few moments, the hunt would be over. After the meal, a calm would return. The Megalodon would likely rest, allowing its powerful digestive system to work. It would return to its slow patrol, a satiated giant, a shadow once more merging with the ocean.
But the life of a megalodon was not only about brutal hunts. There was another side to its existence. As we touched upon, there were the nursery grounds, the warm, shallow coastal waters around the world, in places like modern-day Panama or the coast of Spain. Here, the giant females would give birth to their young. Imagine a juvenile megalodon, 3 meters long, already a formidable predator from the moment of its birth. And yet, in an ocean of dangers, even it was vulnerable. In these shallow nurseries, it would be safe from the larger adult megalodons, who would likely predate on it given the chance, and other predators. Here, it would spend its first years hunting smaller prey, large fish, ancient dugongs, or sea turtles. Every hunt was a lesson. It learned how to ambush, how to use its speed, and how to select a target. These bays and estuaries were the schools for kings. As it grew, it would become bolder, venturing further from the shallows. Finally, after many years, when it was large enough to face the open world, it would leave the nursery and begin its life as an ocean wanderer. This cycle, birth in a safe haven, growth through hunting smaller prey, and eventual graduation to the open ocean, ensured the survival of the species for millions of years. These nurseries were vital to their existence. The life of a megalodon was also a mostly solitary one. Unlike dolphins or orcas, there is no evidence they hunted in packs. They were the sole rulers of their domains. They must have encountered one another, however, especially during mating seasons. The meeting of 2 such giants must have been a spectacular sight. Perhaps there were complex courtship rituals, slow dances in the deep, or perhaps fierce battles between males for mating rights. Bite marks found on fossilized megalodon ribs suggest they did, on occasion, fight each other. As we think about the life of this creature, it's important to release our own concept of time. A megalodon might have lived for several decades, perhaps even close to a century. For it, a year was a cycle of prey migration. A decade was the period of growth from adolescent to adult. Its life was measured on a scale that befitted its size: slow, long, and majestic.
Each day was the same, yet different. The sun rose and set above it, its light creating ever-changing patterns on its back. Storms might rage on the surface, but in the depths there was only a muffled stillness. The currents would carry it across oceans, past underwater continents never seen by human eyes. It may not have had consciousness as we know it, no emotions, no thoughts, but there was instinct, an ancient drive passed down through hundreds of millions of years of shark evolution, to hunt, to survive, to reproduce. In the simplicity of that drive, there is a profound beauty. As night fell on the Miocene ocean, the world changed. Bioluminescence would light up the depths, twinkling plankton like underwater stars. The Megalodon would continue its journey, a shadow among shadows, its large eyes adjusting to the dark. It is here, perhaps, that it was most at an advantage, where it could approach sleeping prey at the surface, unseen. As you prepare for sleep tonight, imagine yourself as an unseen observer, following one of these giants through its day and night. Feel the quiet power in its movements. Understand the efficient logic of its hunt. Appreciate the slow, long cycle of its life. This was not the life of a monster, but the life of a king, a ruler whose role was essential to maintaining the balance of its world. Without an apex predator like Megalodon, whale populations might have exploded, consuming food sources and destabilizing the ecosystem. Megalodon, in its brutality, was a guardian. But every kingdom, no matter how mighty, must eventually face its twilight. The world never stands still. Climates change, continents shift, and prey evolves. In our final episode, we will explore how and why this impossibly dominant ruler finally vanished from the oceans, leaving only its giant teeth as proof of its long reign. But for tonight, let the image of this majestic king fill your mind. Let its slow, steady movement guide you into a deep sleep. And in the depths of your dreams, perhaps you can hear the faint, distant echo of the ancient ocean's heartbeat.
We have swum in its rich world and followed its majestic life. We have come to understand its power and the perfection of its adaptation. For millions of years, it reigned unchallenged, the apex predator at the apex of the world. But every kingdom, no matter how mighty, must eventually face its twilight. In this final chapter of our story, we will witness how the world around the great giant began to change. We will explore the invisible forces, the cooling climate, the shrinking seas, and the disappearing prey that slowly unraveled its long reign. This is the story of the end of an era. For over 20 million years, Megalodon reigned supreme. Its formula for success was perfectly tuned to the world it inhabited: immense size, a powerful bite, and an abundant supply of medium-sized, blubber-rich ancient whales. As long as the world stayed the same, its rule seemed eternal. But the world never stays the same. Towards the end of the Miocene and into the Pliocene, around 5 million years ago, our planet began to cool. This was not a sudden change, but a slow shift over millions of years. Global ocean currents began to change. The Isthmus of Panama slowly formed, separating the Atlantic and Pacific and rerouting the circulation of warm water. The poles began to freeze permanently, locking vast amounts of water into giant ice sheets. The effect was profound. Sea levels around the world began to fall. Imagine you are a megalodon living in this time of transition. The water, once reliably warm, now carries a chill. The currents you once followed to find prey now flow differently. But the most devastating change was the loss of home.
The falling sea levels drastically reduced the area of shallow coastal seas. The warm, protected nursery grounds where female megalodons gave birth and their young grew in safety began to shrink and disappear. Bays that were once havens for the young now became dry land or marshes too shallow to support them. Without these safe nurseries, the survival rate of young megalodons plummeted. The species was losing its ability to effectively regenerate. The foundation of its kingdom was beginning to crack. Meanwhile, in the open oceans, its primary food source was also changing. The ancient whales that were megalodons' favorite prey were reacting to the global cooling. Some evolved to be larger and better at storing blubber to survive in cold water. Like the ancestors of modern blue whales, they began migrating to the krill-rich polar waters, places far too cold for a warm-loving giant shark like Megalodon. Its main course had moved to a restaurant it couldn't enter. Other, smaller, more agile whales also evolved, like the ancestors of dolphins and orcas. They were faster and more intelligent. For the massive megalodon built to ambush slower prey, chasing these nimble targets was an inefficient waste of energy. The megalodon's world was shrinking. Its home was disappearing, and its food was becoming scarce or too difficult to catch. The king was starving. And as if that wasn't enough, a new competitor entered the stage. From another line of sharks, a smaller, more versatile, and better adapted predator for a cooler world was emerging. This was the ancestor of the modern great white shark, Carcharodon carcharias. This shark was not as large as the megalodon, but it was fast, intelligent, and capable of hunting a wide variety of prey, from seals to dolphins. In a world where giant whales were becoming rare, the ability to switch to smaller prey was a major advantage. There may have been direct competition between adult megalodons and these ancient great whites, but the real battle was fought at the generational level. The vulnerable young megalodons in their shrinking nurseries had to compete for food with these nimbler sharks. In the fight for the future, the slow, specialized giant began to lose to the more flexible newcomer. Imagine the last megalodon. Perhaps it was an old female who had lived for decades, remembering a warmer, richer ocean. She patrols waters that now feel alien. The vibrations of large whales, once so common, are now rare. The scent of blood in the water is a fading memory. She might spend weeks, even months, searching for a meal that never comes. Her great body, once the source of her strength, is now a burden, demanding energy she can no longer find. She swims past the remains of dead coral reefs, killed by the cooling water, underwater cities now turned to graveyards.
Perhaps in her final moments, she simply drifts in the deep, letting her tired body sink slowly to the bottom.
No battle, no roar, just silence. The last breath of a species that had reigned for longer than humanity has existed. With her death, an era came to an end. The extinction of Megalodon around 3.6 million years ago was not a failure. It was a casualty of its own success. It had evolved to be such a perfect apex predator for its world that when its world changed, it could not. Its extreme specialization was both its strength and its fatal flaw. The oceans moved on without it. The great white shark took its place as an apex predator, albeit on a smaller scale. Whales evolved into the modern giants we know today. The ecosystem found a new balance. What remains of the megalodon? Only its teeth. The giant teeth, shed continuously throughout its life, now lies scattered on seafloors across the globe. For millions of years, they were buried in sediment, fossilized, the silent proof of a lost kingdom. Today, when a diver finds one of these teeth on the ocean floor or a collector holds one in their hand, they are holding more than a fossil. They are holding the echo of the king's silent roar. The story of Megalodon is a powerful reminder of the nature of change on our planet. Nothing is permanent. Even the strongest, the largest, and the most dominant must eventually yield to the shifting of climates, the drifting of continents, and the inescapable current of time. And yet, its story is also a celebration of life. For 20 million years, this incredible creature swam our oceans. It shaped the evolution of whales, it balanced ecosystems, and it represented the peak of what is possible in predator design. Its existence, though over, made the oceans a more dynamic and complex place. As you close your eyes tonight, do not think only of its extinction. Think of its long reign. Imagine once more the warm Miocene sea. Imagine the ancient whales swimming in the sunlight. And imagine the great shadow that patrolled peacefully beneath them. The king in his kingdom, the guardian of the balance, the apex of a lost world. The story of Megalodon is over, but the story of our planet continues. Vary the changes that led to its downfall are part of the same cycle that would eventually allow for the rise of humankind. In every ending, there is always a new beginning. Rest now, let the ocean of time carry you, and know that beneath the silence of the night, the planet continues to change, to evolve, carrying with it the memory of all the great beings that have ever called it home.